Morning then, so day 40, and I am enjoying a really wonderful breakfast here at the Bagatelle Garden House in Budapest. This place has been an absolute oasis. It's so beautiful. Just a bit of luxury in the middle of the trip, after 3 really hard days. It's been hugely restorative. What a little spot in Budapest to come and stay. It's basically like it's got 6 rooms and it's like a house, so you've got a sort of beautiful kitchen and access to all this kind of stuff. So it's a bit like a home from home sort of vibe rather than a kind of hotel. And it's just what I needed, the ability to come out and make a coffee and just have a proper breakfast. Yeah, it's been good for the brain as much as the body, I think. And a shower that I did not want to get out of. I've been in it about 5 times. Anyway. Enough about my sort of hygiene. That probably still hasn't washed me clean, so you can still smell me in this kit. So today, I am feeling good. A little bit tired after the 3 days mentally, but I have a day ahead of me. I've got another 30 miles basically to run today, and I think actually it's shorter, so I'm happy about that. It should be hopefully about sort of 6 hours still running. And I know that the second half of it, into a place that I can't pronounce, like Szentendre or something, is going to be beautiful. Everyone's told me that stretch is lovely. The first bit, getting out of Budapest, I think is going to be the challenge. It's quite hard navigating the city and the city roads, and I think it's going to be quite busy along the stretch to get out. I'm hoping that I'll hit a sort of cycle path, even if it's running alongside a main road. As long as there's like a sectioned off cycle path that I can use, that's great. So I've got to navigate my way down to Margaret Island. Some of you will know that because it's kind of famous. It's got a running track that goes right round the island here. I was so tempted just to nip into that and go and do that running track. It's like a 4 or 5k loop, but I don't think I'm going to get time, and I think it might be, complacency would be setting in if I went and added those miles in unnecessarily. But it's such a shame because it would have been lovely. I saw Budapest very briefly. I went out and had a massage, and then I went and had a bite to eat with Jules. Jules now was a cyclist that I met in a tunnel in Serbia. I flagged them down and we stopped and had a chat in one of the tunnels going through the iron gates. His bike broke, he came back to Budapest, so I went and met him, which was fantastic. Again, making those connections. He's off on a big journey of his own, starting with going to a festival, so good luck at the festival, Jules. Survive that one first, mate. And that was good. So I've had a bit of downtime. The thing with this though is sometimes when you sort of have these moments of kind of euphoria and release when you get to a place and you hit a milestone and you're all kind of pumped and a lot of adrenaline, a lot of endorphins, a lot of positivity sort of flows out, and then the following day you can feel a bit drained actually. And I do feel a bit of that. It's almost like you sort of soften your focus a bit. And then you've got to work a bit harder to narrow it back down to the task at hand. And that's what I think I'm going to experience today. I think it's going to take a little bit to get my head back in the game. Flipping from feeling like you're on holiday in a beautiful hotel in a lovely city to getting back into the task, which I've got to move a certain amount of miles today. But that's all good. That's just the nature of this beast I'm taking on. So today we've got, like I said, 30 miles. First bit is going to be city. Second bit I hope is going to be kind of Danube paths out to a beautiful location. I'm now 2 days, so I've got this run and tomorrow's run. At the end of tomorrow's run, late in the middle of the night, Adam will arrive. So 2 more to get through before I've got company for 4 days, and a new pack because my pack broke yesterday. I've managed to fix it up with I bought some I can't remember what they're called, zip laces or whatever, some laces, lock laces, basically replacement bungee cord, and that seems to have done the trick. So I'm basically hoping that that's going to hold up today, because that's going to be a big problem if it doesn't. And I'm ready to go and take down another 30 miles. I've had 2 coffees, which is more than I've had really. I've not really been having coffee very much at all. And I'm left a bit later today. I'm going to leave at 8, so I've taken the chance to have a little bit more of a leisurely breakfast. When you see the basket of pastries that's here, you might understand why. Sitting here for an hour working my way through all the pastries. anyway, yeah, feeling really positive. And thank you for all the questions, by the way. I will answer those in tonight's kind of roundup. I'll get to those. There's some really good questions about, what some of the things that are happening out here and how I'm operating. How, do I stretch, all that kind of stuff. So I will answer all of your questions. I appreciate those. But I better get through some more of those pastries and then hit the road. So yeah, I will update you along the way and at the end again. But happy Wednesday, people. So I'm off, I'm out, left late this morning, gone 8 o'clock. It's the latest I think I've started any stage, but we're off, we're moving, and we're going to go, first up we've got to go down to, well basically I'm going to do a flyby of the Parliament building and then hit the river and run along. So the people at the Bagatelle Garden House here, super helpful, helped me plan a little bit of the first part of the route. And yeah, they've been such great hosts. Again, just looked after me wonderfully. So appreciative of having the opportunity to stay there. If you come to Budapest, it's an oasis, this place, of calm in quite a sort of a big busy city, and yeah, a magic destination. Yeah, I'm going to walk the first mile as usual. I think I'm expecting it to take me a little while to get out of Budapest, so I better crack on with it. Hopefully I'll get to some open running before too long. Hey there, so end of day 40. Can't quite believe I've been running for 40 days like this. It's really weird, it sort of compresses. It doesn't feel like yesterday that I started in some ways, but it also feels like it was 2 years ago. It's really strange about kind of how time passes in the routine of all of this. You know, the system that you've got for when you know, my kit's all laid out, I'm charging my gadgets. After I come in the room, everything's sort of ready to go for the morning, and you go through the process in the morning, and you go and run, and then you come back and you take everything off and put it down, and it all kind of rolls into these sort of long days, I guess. I don't know, it just sort of merges together to a certain extent.
and you have these long spells where you're clearly running quite different terrain, and yeah, it feels very different. But yeah, I don't know, time has sort of taken. The other day I didn't really know what day it was, so anyway, we are on day 40. I've got about 27 days left to go. Today's run ended up being a 27 miler from Budapest to a place called, where am I now? I'm in Dunabogdany. That's what I've been struggling with the names here, but yeah, it was it was great. I dropped down from my lovely accommodation, the Bagatelle house, to the river in the city, and then sort of ran the river out, and they had quite good kind of cycle paths pretty much leading you out of the city towards the outskirts. It got a bit kind of difficult to navigate, and then all of a sudden at one point we sort of turned, we did a quick kind of zip right and then a zip left along the river, and then along the river towards Szentendre you basically just had some of the most glorious running that I've seen on this journey. The paths were, well kept. You were sort of running through lots and lots of restaurants and sort of cafes and bars, but really kind of low key. Lots of people milling about, loads of people on bikes, loads of people canoeing, loads of people walking their dogs. There was just life and activity, and people, on their holidays and enjoying themselves, and it was magic. And there were, some of it was shaded because of the trees, and every now and again you'd break out into these stretches where it was just you running through like a green tunnel of trees. And the river would break through, periodically. Some, running past all these little beaches that people were down, kind of sunbathing or swimming or diving off pontoons. It was just a lovely, lovely stretch. And then that kind of continued right into this town, which I'm not pronouncing right at all. I think it means like Saint Andrew, basically, but Szentendre, which is a beautiful little town. Kind of, it's got big church kind of steeple that you see coming off as you're running into it around the sweep, and you've got the Danube to your right, and lots of nice restaurants and stuff on the waterfront with this path that sort of goes alongside, and it was just glorious. It was some of the best running, like I said, that I've had. It was just freedom and enjoyment, and there was nothing to worry about really apart from just moving through, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Pretty much today's run was one of the most kind of joyous that I've had, and that was right up until basically the last kind of 5 miles where it got a bit main roady and I was struggling a bit, but that's the way it is. These things are always a bit more difficult when you're tired and what have you. And then I just towards the end, right at the end, I sort of 2 miles out, I picked up a little bit of a twinge in my right quad, just above the knee. And so I stopped for the last mile and a half and walked and kind of nursed it home. I'm hoping it's just like a minor thing. It was just a bit too many miles in the last kind of 4 days, and that it'll ease off. It didn't stop me running, but it was a bit painful. So I always proceed with caution when these things kind of pop up and try and manage them, because you don't want to overdo it. So it was brilliant. I've got one more day now. I'm going to run to a place called Esztergom, and then tomorrow night Adam will arrive, and we've got 2 more days basically of running in Hungary, and then I've run across Hungary and done it really quickly. We'll be into Slovakia, so it's coming quick now. It feels like the end is hurtling towards me, and it's going to sound really bizarre, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for it to be over. I'm kind of loving the process, loving doing this. Sort of in my flow at the moment. I could do with a mileage big, like about 15 or 20 rather than 30s and 40s, but yeah, and things are going to change. Tomorrow we've got a bit of elevation to eat, so I've got 22 miler and it's going to get a little bit more hilly, but we're going to hopefully climb to a point where we get a brilliant kind of like 360 view of the Danube and one of the big bends, so I'm excited about that. And then got a couple of ferry crossings as well, so it's going to be an interesting one tomorrow. Anyway, enough about today and tomorrow. I wanted to answer some of the questions that you guys have put to me in the comments below in this video, so I'm going to do that now. So I've got them all written down here, some of the little notes. So Sam Spade basically asked me in the morning, before the runs, do I stretch? And I was going to reveal this all at the end, but I don't actually. I've never stretched for running. I don't do any stretching at all. I never have. I basically just use the first mile or 2 miles to warm up by walking, and then I run very, very slowly and just let the legs kind of come to life gradually. I've never done stretching in any of my running in 12 years, and I've done an awful lot of it. That's not to say that I shouldn't. I can't touch my toes, so I'm not very flexible, but touch wood, I've never really had any kind of serious injuries either. So no, Sam, I basically just kind of move slowly and use that as like an active warm-up, essentially. Occasionally I've had to stop on this and do some sort of static stretching where I'm mainly kind of stretching out my calves and down into the Achilles to, lean against the lamppost and do a bit of that, but no, I don't. The next question was from Kieran Turner, and Kieran asked me, do I apply anything to my feet? Now, in the past I had this powder, it was by 2 Toms, it's called 2 Toms Blister Shield. It's like a talcum powder sort of thing. You pour it into your socks and you kind of put it on your feet, and what it does is it creates like a barrier which lets moisture out but not back in. And if you're going to have really sweaty feet, or you're going to be running, it won't, if you run through puddles, forget it, nothing's going to help you there. But in terms of that overall kind of moisture control, I've used it at the Marathon des Sables. It really helps prevent blisters, I found. It dries your feet out. I haven't brought that here just because I couldn't carry enough of it, essentially, day in, day out. So I just had to take it on the chin and hope the blisters didn't work. So I don't apply anything to my feet. Sometimes I will wrap my little toe. In the early days I was, because my little toe sort of sits under my other toes and gets a bit squashed and a bit crazy. So I don't. The only other thing I do is I've got a hypodermic needle, and if I get blisters, I don't pop them, but I kind of put the needle in a few points and let them drain. I don't fiddle with the skin, I just let them drain a little bit, maybe overnight. And then I might clean it with a bit of iodine. In the past I've injected iodine in, and that is my best way for treating blisters. It means you keep the skin there, and that eventually dries and kind of forms a protective barrier, I've found. So that's one thing I do with those. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing. And then Julian asked me about whether or not I could give it a bit of comparison from the Speed 2 and the Speed 3, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2 versus the Speed 3. Now, I ran about 700 miles in the Speed 2, and then I switched to the Speed 3, and I've now done, I don't know, maybe it might be like 300 miles or something, maybe a little more. And yeah, essentially, I like the Speed 2. The reason that I switched them out, I think, was they're just ever so slightly narrower than the Speed 3 in the toe box. And, I mentioned about the toe, that was causing some issues. And there's a little bit more cushioning and a slightly wider base of that cushioning on the Speed 3s. And actually, that, since I've switched, has really helped, particularly when I'm moving at a slightly slower pace. The Speed 2s are really good, I find, when you're kind of moving in good form with fast pace. But they weren't quite giving me enough protection towards the end of those kind of 700 miles. And I was starting to feel them, so switching out, it's just given me a little bit more comfort and cushioning. The other difference has been that I wasn't really, when I walked in the Speed 2s, the heel cup down into the bottom where the sole meets the heel was rubbing the back of my heel really badly. It was causing me quite a lot of problems. It's difficult because I've needed to walk at times during this. I've not been having that so much with the Speed 3, so it's given me, I guess, another gear to use. But I was starting to do a lot more damage walking in the Speed 2. So yeah, if I was doing sort of short daily training, regular kind of running daily training, I still think the Speed 2 are a great shoe, and I think I prefer them over the Speed 3 really. But you're talking like marathon training miles, it's very different to what I'm doing right here day in, day out. So if you can pick up the Speed 2s at a bargain price right now, I'd say go for it. I think if you want a little bit of extra cushioning, a little bit wider toe balls, go for the Speed 3s, but you're going to pay a little bit more for them. So yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah, and then Funk Soul Idiot, sounds terrible to say, but you chose the name. Was asked whether I would choose a different shoe than the Speed 3 if I was, could do this, have my time over again. I think I'd probably have put the Speed 3 on from the beginning rather than gone for the Speed 2. That's the only change I would have made. I'm enjoying running in them right now. They're doing everything that I need them to do. I don't think there would be, there may be other shoes that could do the same, but I wouldn't change from the Speed 3. They've done a really good job. And then Osman Fant Backstrows has asked me, do I ever go and have a little dip in the Danube? Because I haven't really mentioned it. I have done on a bunch of occasions. I haven't done it sort of recently. I nearly went down this evening, but it's quite a walk from where I'm staying. And the other thing I've got to worry or got to look out for is getting my feet really wet all the time, because they've sort of toughened up and the skin has gone all hard, and it's like there are certain bits of it which I could show you, but like my toes, the skin's hardened, and when it gets wet for too long and loosens, some of it can peel away, and that removes some of the protection that I've got, and then I have to, make the skin tough again. So, and there's open bits as well, so I don't really want to get those bits infected. So I've been a bit reluctant, a little bit, just because I want to keep my feet intact. But I have gone in a couple of times, and I will certainly be in again, sort of, when the opportunity arises. The only other thing is I don't have a towel, and I've only got one pair of shorts, so it's logistically it's not as easy for me to get in and get out. I can dry in the sun, but it's just a little bit complicated. And then finally, and I haven't written down who wrote this question, but What Matters to Matt has asked me about my resting heart rate and what it would be, if I was able to not have all the strain going through my body on a daily basis. Now, Matt, but essentially I track my heart rate variability and my resting heart rate using an app called HRV for Training, which is a really good heart rate variability tracking app. It's just to check it out. You just use it on your phone every morning, 1 minute test using the phone's torchlight and camera, and it will give you a reading of your heart rate variability, almost acting a little bit like a heart rate monitor on your watch, and it will tell you great things about whether or not you're how your body's responding to the strain that you're putting it through. Now, my resting heart rate at the moment is somewhere between like a 37 and a 43, depending on the day and how it's gone. So that's not really that different to how it's been before I came to do this. The one thing I have noticed in terms of heart rate, though, is that my ability to run at paces, that are faster, like 8.5 minutes now, with a pack on, 10 kilo pack, in the heat, and after all the strain I've put through, and my heart rate can be as low as 125 beats per minute, which, even when I was back in London before I did this, if I'd have gone and run for 10 miles at 8.5 minute miles, I'd have been in the 140s for sure. So I'm getting fitter and stronger. I'm kind of really looking forward to, when this is over, having a week's rest and going and seeing what I might be able to do without the pack, and just seeing how I can move at a low heart rate. So this is probably the biggest training-based block that I've ever put in, at really low and slow and steady heart rate. I'm very rarely above 130 beats per minute. So whether or not when I stop I'll see my resting heart rate drop or not, I honestly don't know, but I will keep you posted. I can give you some more updates on that as I find out. But check out the heart rate. The heart rate variability HRV for Training app is a really good app to look at if you're interested in sort of monitoring that sort of thing as well. So